Ark Invest just called out the reactions of Wall Street analysts to Tesla's earnings, and Gary Black predicted that something is going to catapult Tesla next year. Let's take a look.
The questions from the investment Wall Street professionals are about production in the next quarter, next 2 quarters, what's pricing going to do? Meanwhile, you have a company that's ramping over 50% growth year over year, is in the best position cost, kind of cutting prices to drive demand if they need to and still remaining profitable. So I think this is kind of a classic case of, if you look short term, you can find things and say, oh, you know, we want more. But if you take a step back and you just appreciate this picture and the progress they're making, it's pretty remarkable.
A lot of these Wall Street analysts just can't help but embarrass themselves when it comes to Tesla. There is not even a single question about Giga Mexico on the earnings call. Everything is just now. Now, some analysts are getting a little bit better, like for example, Tom from RBC. He has been changing his tune a little bit, and that's great. And the most hilarious move is downgrading the stock, but increasing your price target. This is from UBS, as reported by Morningstar.com. It is just silly. I understand downgrading the rating and then lowering your Tesla stock price target, but I just can't really understand how you downgrade a rating but increase the Tesla stock price target unless you're not paying attention. And then you say, well, we didn't change the price target earlier because we basically fell asleep and we stopped looking at Tesla, and a few months later we looked at it and turns out we missed out on a lot of things. So yeah, the price target is now up. And it wasn't just one firm that did that. Morgan Stanley did exactly that, downgraded the rating but increased the price target by $50. And then Barclays also downgraded the stock but increased the price target by $40. It is almost like one of them did it and then everyone else looked at one of them and said, we should do the same thing. Even the mainstream media, Yahoo Finance, was sort of making fun of UBS the other day. Everyone is just so focused on the short term that they don't see the long-term picture. For example, the Cybertruck.
We did a little poll on this. Look at this. 50% of the people said they love it. 33% said they hate it. I don't know, 16% said they're not sure. I don't know how people are not sure of anything. But do you take solace from the pictures and from the public small sample reaction?
Well, it's big, it's bold, and it's gorgeous. And what you've got is 1.9 million of pre-orders. That's a huge number. And what's going to happen is this thing's going to start deliveries probably end of third quarter. It's going to be priced, the base model will be priced right below $50,000. And it's going to start rolling across America. It's going to be like a rolling billboard. And people are going to see it. And they're going to be like, wow, that's really interesting. And they're going to go to the website and they're going to order a Model 3 or a Model Y or a Model S or a Model X or a Cybertruck. And you're going to produce this whole halo effect, which is exactly what happened back in 20 when the Model Y first came out and people didn't know what to make of it. This is even more grand because it's not going to cannibalize any of the base products because Tesla has never been in the pickup truck business. So you're not going to cannibalize anything. So it's going to be a home run for Tesla, and it's going to really catapult the stock, and it's going to really catapult volumes into next year.
I think the host's reaction there at the end mostly sums up what Wall Street is thinking about Tesla right now. Maybe before you have heard that Tesla has an issue with panel gaps, but if you look at the competition, you will realize that they make vehicles with whole body parts completely missing from the vehicle. Whoever came up with that F-150 Cybertruck wrap needs to get a raise.
Kind of looming concern of demand. But I'd say from the Ark side, we are not concerned over demand for electric vehicles. We think they'll be the future. Tesla is still the leader there.
I feel like one of the biggest pushbacks, full self-driving, it's just never going to happen. It's impossible.
Yeah. Well, I think, so we get asked this question a lot. So our midpoint is that Tesla will launch a robotaxi service in 2024. So that's next year. Like, why do we think that? Well, okay, Tesla has said, and Elon has said many times that he thinks this year they will solve for full self-driving, meaning, you know, right now it's a beta software. You have to keep your hands on the wheel. What I imagine full self-driving to be is, you know, you actually don't have to pay attention as the driver anymore. So I think that one, we've always been a little bit more conservative than Elon. So okay, we think okay, if they cross that threshold this year, what's the likelihood they'll actually launch a service, which kind of does take some, operational and logistics bandwidth to do.
I don't particularly pay much attention to what Elon says about when full self driving is going to be solved because I have a Tesla. I can just get into the car, turn FSD on, and see exactly how much progress it has made. And it has made a lot of progress. On the other hand, if you just look at Elon's track record about FSD, we can make probably a pretty good prediction that Elon is not going to be right this year again, but one time, eventually, he will be right. And I think that day is going to be much sooner than what Wall Street analysts think.
There's looking at the videos that we see online, posted on Twitter by users. Some of them actually, you don't have the steering wheel nag feature on, so their hands are actually off. But they're completing what look like, start to finish ride-hail rides with Uber on their phone, or at least, barely touching the wheel, maybe in the very beginning and the very end. So it seems like the FSD capability, at least in certain geographies, right? Maybe not everywhere, maybe California, where it works the best. It looks really close to possible. And then the third thing that I'd mention is just, all the updates that we've seen this year in AI broadly. We know that those in diffusion models and large language models it's not exactly the same. That a lot of those advances should in some way port over to other industries like autonomy. And I think actually diffusion is a good example because we know that Tesla is moving towards that.
This year is a zero human input real rideshare ride where Omar picks someone up and actually drops them off exactly where they want to be dropped off, and there's zero human input. This was roughly a 15-minute drive in total, and this is proof that it could indeed work. Now, exactly when will this start working, we don't really know, but is it possible? Yeah, definitely it's possible. I'm still amazed that some people say it is never going to happen. Well, then how come we can already make it happen some of the time?
FSD autonomy is such a focus. And if you look back 5 years ago, it was barely talked about at all. From our perspective, that's great because we think it'll be, over 60% of the enterprise value of the company over the next 5 years. So I'm happy to see it talked about so much. We did hear Elon say, he thinks it's going to be quasi-infinite demand for the robotaxi, right? We think that, we've estimated the total addressable market is more like $11 trillion, let's say, over the next decade for robotaxi.
Remember Tom from RBC on the right here? He's attributing some small chance that full self-driving is going to be solved by Tesla. He's giving Tesla an extremely small chance of solving full self-driving, and he is not seeing that full self-driving is going to be solved even in the next 8 years. He assumes it's going to be quite a bit later than that, so that's why his price target is not as huge as Kathy Wood's price target for Tesla stock. But we are now seeing some analysts, very few though, that are starting to change their tune about Tesla in terms of autonomy and full self-driving capability potential.
There are already autonomous cars out there that are charging money for rides, right? So just the basic assumption that it's impossible and will never happen needs to be thrown out of the window because there's over 10 cities right now where you have autonomous cars. And so the question isn't, is this possible? We know it's possible. The question is, how quickly can this scale? And I think, the exciting thing about Tesla's approach is the potential for how quickly it can scale.
Well, in Tesla's case, that would be extremely fast. It's pretty much as fast as Tesla can make vehicles. I think Tesla will start in specific markets first and will saturate these markets because you want to have a lot of cars all over. Otherwise, no one will really want to use the app to call a robotaxi, because if every time you try to call one, you need to wait for, let's say, 20 minutes or 30 minute or an hour just to get a robotaxi, no one is really going to want to use that. But if you saturate the market pretty quickly and you can get a ride within, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes every single time, then a lot of people will actually start using it, assuming that it is at the right price, which it will be. And then I keep hearing that regulatory approval would be a huge issue for Tesla, but I think that would really only be a huge issue if Tesla solves full self-driving later in the decade or in the next decade, because by then Tesla could be making well over 10 million vehicles per year, and Tesla could not just launch 15 million robotaxis in one single year in one single state like Florida, because that state is not big enough to probably take that many robotaxis all at once. But these states in the US allow full self-driving already. So if Tesla solved full self-driving, let's say next year or a year after that, or even a year after that, Tesla can just launch in these states first, saturate them, prove that it's safe and that everything works well. And then once everyone sees that it is working in these states, I think it won't be all that too difficult to launch in other states. It will still require a lot of approvals and it will still be a headache, but I don't think it's something that we should really be worried about a lot.
Waymo and Cruise and Tesla, if you compare Tesla's FSD miles driven in FSD by customers, how long did it take each of these companies to get to their most recent additional million-mile mark? So how quick can they drive 1,000,000 miles? Okay, for Waymo, it's close to 2 years. For Cruise, it's like a month and a half based on their most recent announcement. For Tesla, they're actually collecting over 2 million miles of FSD data per day. And that's just FSD, by the way. You know, they have hundreds of thousands of drivers that are opted into this right now, but they have millions of cars on the road. So that, you know, they're able to test other features in shadow mode on a very large fleet. But just FSD data alone, over 2 million miles a day compared to 1.5 months and years. I mean, I think that just shows the immense data advantage that Tesla has that we think will continue to propel them as one of the most interesting AI plays out there. Cruise wants to have 1 million cars on the road in the next 10 years, but I mean, Tesla's planning on ramping this quickly. And if they are successful on the software side, if they do cross that full autonomy mark, I mean, just the fact that they are setting up today the capability to make that scale happen really matters, right? Because they're not going to be the first. Waymo and Cruise were the first to launch, but they might be the first to scale.
Autonomy is coming and it will be here, just a matter of time, but Tesla is making progress quickly and it's pretty impressive what it can already do. And YouTube says you should watch this video next, but if you haven't finished watching this Elon Musk interview, watch this one first. My name is Matt Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.